How's our construction going? Still building factories in Sao Paulo. Let's also queue some up in this area. So that'll be 13, 14, 15, 16. Yeah. So by that point, we'll be able to start building other stuff. I might actually go for... might actually end up going for infrastructure before military factories, just because it's going to be so critical for us to be able to attack across the Amazon. Yeah, we don't need to go any further down the politics track for now, so we will try to get our extra research slot as quickly as possible, starting with industrial effort. 2 research slots is pretty painful to deal with, honestly. The Partido Comunista Brasileiro. I'm using a Spanish pronunciation, not really a Portuguese one, so that might be completely wrong. Is gaining power very quickly. Portuguese viewers can let me know exactly how wrong I am in pronouncing their language. I am AsaTJ on Twitter. That's ASATJ, or Alpha Sierra Alpha Tango Juliet, for those of you fond of the military phonetic alphabet. I don't really like my line distribution here. Oh, Italy took Ethiopia, which apparently didn't really generate any world tension at all. Or it's been balanced out by something else. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to move 2 of these divisions down here. I can stop exercising now. One of the good things about playing a smaller nation like this is I'm just going to be able to micro the crap out of all of their armies. Which will be nice. Having less to deal with and being able to give more attention to every single troop and every single movement that I make. I'm gonna do some pretty hardcore micro here. Alright. Add building slots, add civilian factories, that's what I like to hear. I'm slightly worried about concentrating our civilian industry along the coast. But really it's our military industry that I want to keep protected in the interior, so... If we've got to put civilian factories anywhere, I'd rather put them in a slightly vulnerable position than to put my military factories in a vulnerable position, because we can keep fighting as long as we have military factories. In a... you know, doomsday scenario where we get invaded by the UK or something. Okay, so I don't think we're really going to be fighting an air war, so I'm going to go ahead and go with concentrated industry. I don't see it becoming relevant that bomber defense is going to be super important fighting against mostly other South American nations. If we get up to the point where we're fighting the US, it will be, but at that point I would think our industry will be entrenched enough that it won't be much of an issue. Okay, ahead of time on that. We're slightly ahead of time on the next level of construction. So we should probably start on a doctrine. And I'm really thinking that superior firepower is going to be the best for our purposes here. Mobile warfare is all about, you know, tanks and trucks, and we're not going to be building a lot of those. You can't really get them through the jungle anyway. Mass assault could be helpful because of our low manpower pool, especially with the rebalancing they've made to it. Where is that one? Guerrilla warfare would be really useful for fighting out of supply. Actually, this is looking a little bit more attractive to me now, but I still think... yeah, mechanized offensive... yeah, I still think superior firepower is going to do the best for us, because we want to make the most of the elite troops that we have. And I'm going to focus on making all of my troops as elite as possible. As opposed to just buffing how many guys we can put on the battlefield. Really annoyed at countries that don't have an industrial theorist, because that's always one of the first things I go for. Again, political power gain is good, but 5% is just not that much. Like, it'll take him a good... probably toward the end of the war to actually pay himself off, as opposed to the advisor that's just focused on political power gain. And ideology drift defense is only really useful in multiplayer. So I don't think I'll hire any more political advisors for the time being. I really just want to flip over to communist so I can switch to war economy immediately, because that's such a powerful... Like, if you're playing as a communist or fascist country, that should be like the first or second thing you do with your political power. Maybe I will hire military theorist. Yeah, land doctrine research time and army experience gain is going to be really useful for us. And then I'll start filling out probably my chiefs of staff and stuff. Since we have so few research slots at this point, I'm not too worried about getting like a material designer yet, because we're not going to probably be researching better weapons for a while. Alright, there's our first construction effort. Just moving on down the industrial tree. Very close to the point where we can start up a second line of construction here. Wonder if we can see... Oh, the Spanish Civil War hasn't triggered yet. We have no intel on Europe, so I can't really see what France or Germany are doing. Venezuela has an indeterminate number of troops on our border. Finished concentrated industry. Let's go construction 2. Alright, there's the Spanish Civil War. I don't think we can send volunteers. I would like to support Republican Spain. We can't do Lend-Lease. Can't send volunteers. Maybe once we become communists we can, though. I would like to send them some volunteers. Alright, class conflicts divide Brazil. The communist revolutionary movement, once a fringe popular amongst the radical academics in theory and troublemakers in practice, has seen increased support among the Brazilian working class. The fact that even more people choose to identify themselves with a class at all implies that Marxist ideas are spreading beyond those who actively seek to overthrow the government. Estado Novo members lament this development, longing for a time when Brazilian was what people identified as first and foremost. Their concerns are not unfounded. It could be argued that a revolution is already underway, occurring on several levels of society, and it may be too late to stop it. So I get 15% popularity of communist and minus 2% national unity. Almost puts us over 50%. We are really charging headlong into the red sphere. I wonder... Don't quite have enough army experience to add anything to my divisions, but we're getting pretty close. Talk some division design, which, by the way, we have started a new War College series on the Loresworn YouTube channel that's all about division design. The first episode is up, and the second one will be going up on Tuesday the 12th? The 5th? Yeah, 12th. Tuesday the 12th. The 5th is already over. The February Revolution. The notion that the communist movement represents the people has certainly gotten wind in its sails in Brazil, where the public support for the Communist Party has increased rapidly in past months. But those who call for revolution are no longer a disparate collection of guerrillas and disgruntled labor unions. The group behind the call for revolt is organized enough to form a government if they succeed. Nevertheless, the revolution started now. If the revolution started now, it could hardly be executed without launching Brazil into civil war. Should the revolutionaries risk tearing the nation in two to satisfy their impatience or wait for a better opportunity in the future? So we can start a civil war, or we could say, I think we should go with the inevitable can wait. Should probably get a little bit more support. We're at like 50-50 right now, so I don't really like to trigger a civil war under 50%, and if possible, I would like a peaceful transfer of power. I'm not sure if that's possible with Brazil, because I haven't really played them before, but we'll see. Although the party line of the Estado Novo is strongly opposed to revolutionary socialism, keeping a watchful eye on the nation's radical left-wing elements, some people in the government are more open to the possibility. If nothing else, they see room for addressing the concerns of the people who look to communists for solutions without risking a full-scale civil war. Although they may be seen as traitors by those who remain loyal to Getulio Vargas, I believe, is maybe how you say that. These dissident voices may be the ones to ensure a relatively bloodless transition should the revolution come. My experience with Spanish is limited, and my experience with Portuguese is even more limited, so... You will have to pardon my terrible pronunciation of all Portuguese names. Brazilian Portuguese, from what I understand, actually, it's pronounced quite differently from European Portuguese. We should be able to envelop these guys really quick. I don't think this is going to be much of a fight with Argentina. Alright, got another civilian factory. Head on down to the infrastructure effort. Also extremely helpful, considering our country has terrible infrastructure. Probably should be building more divisions, to be quite honest. I'm actually going to move... I'm going to swap them out for the forest dude, and then I'm going to make a new army with my new troops that's like a training division. Using the other general I have. Alright, communists demand referendum. Marxist ideas took roots in Brazil a long time ago, but have gained much more widespread support lately. The movement has spread outside political theory and into political practice, with disgruntled workers and even some high-profile celebrities voicing support. I don't know who high-profile celebrities were in Brazil in the 1930s. I'm sure there were some. The communists call this class consciousness. The Estado Novo call it a fast track to riots and treason. Showing little faith in guy whose name I probably can't pronounce being willing to implement the reforms, they demand the more vocal communities have called for an immediate referendum to have the current government removed. While we might be able to reverse the momentum of this mass movement, failure to do so will doubtlessly result in a more popular communist method of removal, revolution. Ignore them. Alright, the referendum is preferable to a bloody revolt. So the communist party comes into power, and I gain -5 national unity. So we are now the Brazilian Socialist Republic. I'm just going to make a bookmark save there, in case I decide to mess around with this playthrough in my offline time. Looks like they are shoring up the border, so Argentina has heard about the communists, and they are not keen. This is a mountain division, by the way. Okay, we are in a hilly area here. But they're actually standing in a forest, so if we attack them, I don't think they get any bonus for having a mountain division there. By the way, do we have special forces unlocked? We don't. That's a little bit unfortunate. I guess it would make sense that Argentina would have mountaineers at the start of the game, and Brazil wouldn't. Yes, indeed, Ego Viking, you did walk into some un-Brazilian activities. Oh yeah, and Zigbar 1800 is telling me to remember about the islands. That is definitely a good point. That's actually probably where we will run into the most trouble with this playthrough. Is I'm pretty sure we can take the Guyanas fairly easily, but the Caribbean is going to be a pain, especially since our navy is relatively small. I'm hoping that we can capture a lot of dockyards, like from Argentina, Chile, Peru, Ecuador. Venezuela, I think, has a good few, so we can actually build up a fairly good navy before we have to, like, you know, have an early Falklands War or invade the Caribbean or anything like that. But like I said, I am going to make heavy use of Marines. I might actually just replace all of my normal infantry with Marines. So Okay, so this guy is going to become the founding member of our new training division. And he is going to just garrison Porto Alegre. And any new recruits are actually going to go into this. Did I not? Okay. Okay, yeah, they're already set to the correct thing. Cool. Yeah, I'm being very conservative with my manpower. I'm not entirely sure if that will pay off, but let's see. So we should be able to switch to war economy now. More than 15% world tension. So here's the question we have to make, or we have to ask ourselves. We can switch to partial mobilization now to get an industrial edge. But then we're going to have to pay another 150 to switch to war economy once world tension hits 15%, which we're not... I mean, by 1939 it'll be there. So is it worth it to go from 30% down to 20% right away and have that extra factory availability for the time being? As a small nation, I'm not sure it does, as opposed to just waiting until we can drop down to 15% in one fell swoop. The thing is, I don't really know what else would be a more valuable use of our political power right now. We can't switch to a different trade law. We're being conservative with our manpower, so we don't really need to move to limited conscription yet. So yeah, I think we'll just go ahead and hit partial mobilization. I mean, that'll give us free civilian factories so we can start. And I'm actually gonna focus on infrastructure early. Because we're being so conservative with our manpower, there's not a lot of incentive to rush military factories. Oh, the Hindenburg crashed. Poor Hindenburg. Just slightly early Falklands War. So, yeah, once we blanket Brazil in infrastructure, then we'll start expanding our military factories. But we have a pretty good stockpile going right now. Does limited conscription increase training time? No, it's just a straight-up bonus. So we should probably switch over to that in the fairly near future. I wonder, is there a way for... I don't think there's a way for Brazil to get a 4th research slot. Or, I mean, a 5th research slot. So there's our 3rd. There's our 4th, which we need more factories for. So we can get up to 4, and then we can get the technology... Oh, technology sharing does give us an extra one. Okay, so we can get up to 5 eventually. Cool. Let's go ahead and get the next level of concentrated industry. Mainly for the factory output. I know that I'm not gonna be saturating my states with new factories that much. Oh, Earhart disappeared. It's the darkest timeline so far. Which is also the historical outcomes. Hindenburg crashed, Earhart disappeared. I don't know if you guys saw on the Hearts of Iron Reddit, but there's apparently like a hidden event chain where if the Hindenburg survives, when Rudolf Hess flees Germany, he can actually steal the Hindenburg and use that as his vessel to get to Britain, which is pretty funny. Leadership purges in the Soviet Union. Joseph Stalin has secured stability. That's good for us, because we're probably going to join the Comintern. Finally get that extra research slot. Oh, and I have